Somebody could have taken it. Mayor, we had no microphones. Now we do.
Now we go.
We meant to. Thank you, James. Please rise for the flag salute.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Little Falls Planning Board meeting as the Board of Adjustment tonight also. And the date is April 3rd, 2025, meeting called to order at 7 p.m. Valerie, would you please read the statement of public notice?
The Little Falls Township Planning Board meeting of Thursday, April 3rd, 2025 is called to order. Please take notice that adequate notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-8 and NJSA 10:4-10 as follows. The notice of the meeting was promptly posted on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on January 9th, 2025. Copy of the notice was sent via email to the North Jersey Herald and News on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of the Township Clerk. Please note that this meeting is being taped. Therefore, we ask that you speak loud and clear into the microphones.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Barry,
Here.
Mr. Karaj,
Here.
Mr. Luke Damiano,
Here.
Ms. Cataldo. Here. Mr. Seaver,
Here.
Mr. Pocious.
Here.
Mayor Damiano,
Here.
Councilman Scoba,
Yeah.
Dr. Abdi, Mr. Wade, Mr. Dolan,
Here.
Mr. Rima, Mr. Brigliadoro,
Here.
Mr. Koblars,
Here.
Mr. Barry,
Here.
Mr. Kilpatrick.
Here. Thank you. Council President Scoba, do you have any comments from the council for us?
Chairman, no one came before the governing body at our last council meeting with any concerns for the planning board.
Thank you very much. We have two resolutions memorialized. May I have a motion for the,
Minutes.
may I have a motion for approval of the minutes of March 6, 2025?
Motion.
Second? Please pull the board.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Luke Damiano,
Yes.
Ms. Cataldo,
Yes.
Mr. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Pocious.
Yes.
Mayor Damiano,
Yes.
Councilman Scoba,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Kilpatrick.
Yes, minutes are approved. Thank you, Counselor, for reminding me. May I have a motion to memorialize the resolution for the housing element and fair share plan addendum number 1 to 2024 Little Falls Master Plan?
Make the motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Please poll the board.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Luke Damiano,
Yes.
Ms. Cataldo,
Yes.
Mr. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Pocious,
Yes.
Mayor Damiano,
Yes.
Councilman Scoba,
Yes.
Mr. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Kilpatrick.
Yes. May I have a motion to memorialize resolution for Jimmy and Paulina Geraz, 11 Walnut Street?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Please poll the board.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Luke Damiano,
Yes.
Ms. Cataldo,
Yes.
Mr. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Pocious.
Yes.
Mayor Damiano,
Abstain.
oh, sorry. Mr. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Kilpatrick.
Chairman votes yes, the resolutions are approved. Application, our first application tonight is Passaic Valley High School for a courtesy presentation.
Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself on this one.
Very well.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Planning Board. My name is Raymond Redden. I am counsel for the Passaic Valley Board of Education. We appreciate you hearing us on short notice. We are here in front of you tonight, really just for a courtesy hearing to enlighten you on the board's proposal to erect some protective netting on their property along their softball fields, sort of abutting the properties that are located on Hobson Ave in Little Falls. We didn't file a formal application, but like I said, as a courtesy, we'd like to come in front of your board just to have our officials explain to you what they're proposing to do. They're here to answer any questions you may have. So I'll just give a brief introduction. We have Mario Gaeta, who's the Passaic Valley Supervisor of Ground. We have Colin Monahan, who's the Business Administrator, and we have Brack Haley, who's the Superintendent. So I'll turn it over to these gentlemen, just if they can give you a brief overview of what they're looking to do and why, and certainly they'll field any questions you may have.
Chairman, before we start, saying section 31 review under the miscellaneous law, it's a courtesy review. The board does not make a decision whether to approve the request or deny the request. It's just for informational purposes, and if the board has any recommendations, the board can make them.
Thank you, Counselor.
This is not a hearing. We're not swearing in any witnesses.
Thank you. Sure. Good evening. Just to echo Mr. Redding, I want to thank the planning board for hearing our presentation. And just to give you a little background about the project, about 4 years ago, I started at Passaic Valley High School. And over the course of those 4 years, we've lost quite a few trees along the lines of Hobson Ave that sits between our varsity softball field and the Hobson Ave residents' homes. Over the time, we had lost our backstop. We had erected a new backstop, but we've quickly found over the last couple of years with the trees being decimated that more and more foul balls were going to the backyards of Hobson Ave residents. So to remedy this issue, we had built a 25-foot high fence that then ran down this side of the first base side of the softball field, which was supposed to add protection to the homes. It reduced the amount of foul balls by approximately 80%. And I'm using that sort of anecdotally. I attend all of the softball games. I'm proud to say I usually do not miss a softball game. And the first couple of years there, quite a few balls. I would estimate anywhere from 8 to 12 balls were going to the backyards of those homes during the course of a varsity softball game. The last softball game I attended, we actually had 0 with this 25-foot fence. The game before that, we had one. The game before that, we had 2. So we have seen over the course of the last year that the fence is working. However, balls still ending in the backyards of the residents. So we looked at some of our options. We decided to erect a 60-foot fence, and I'll have Mr. Gaeta come up here in a minute to sort of explain the parameters of this new fencing project. But in essence, it extends past the 25-foot fence right now, another 35 to 40 feet, which would give us about 60 to 65 feet of netting, additional protection. We are pretty confident that will stop any additional foul balls from going over. As I sit and watch the games, I do notice the balls go about 10, 15, 20 feet over the 25-foot fence. So estimating at about 60 feet, that should remedy all of the issues of foul balls going into backyards. To further protect and provide a natural barrier, we've decided to plant trees along that property line. We just planted 15 trees that will sit adjacent to the houses in between the softball field, providing another additional barrier. And actually, we really like the way it looks. I know it was put there to actually protect, and eventually they'll grow to about 50, 60 feet tall, so they'll provide additional protection. But I think our idea is going to be over the next couple of years to continue to add trees each year to just add to a natural barrier that also looks aesthetically pleasing as you pull to the school and you look to your left. You're not necessarily looking into everybody's backyard. You'll now see beautiful landscape of trees. So that is sort of the long and short of how we got here. And I appreciate your support and more than happy to answer any questions after Mr. Gaeta has concluded with his part. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the board for welcoming us here tonight. The project consists of 4 telephone poles. The poles are 75 feet in height. 15 feet of it will go in the ground, and 60 feet of it will be showing from the ground up. So we have 60 feet. From that 60 feet, we'll have netting. Over the 25-foot pole, we'll have about 40 foot of netting on the poles. As we go down past the fence, then we're going to go a full 60 feet of netting. So the total project would be 120 feet down the first base sideline. And the net does stay up all year round. It never comes down. It's sort of, if anyone ever saw like a golf course or if you ever seen another ball field like at Cedar Grove, they have the net that protects the road. It's the same type of netting system.
Very good. Any other presenters? Any questions from the board members?
If the board does the board have any recommendations?
Okay, I have one comment that was very, Mayor informed me you planted 12 trees today, more,
We planted 15 trees.
and they're gonna grow how high, 60 feet?
They're saying 40 to 60 feet, yes.
That's impressive. Thank you very much. I do have one comment as you are making a courtesy presentation. You appeared last year on November 4th, 2021. And at that time, you presented, putting the carpet, if you will, on the football field. At that point, we had, four things that we recommend. Well, one thing we recommended concerning 4 trees. 2 on the south, 2 on the north, 2 oak trees, 2 sycamores, both trees over 100 years old. And we asked that you consider keeping them in place. We were informed at that point that, this was going to be done in phases. And the only thing being done in the beginning was the field. In 4 weeks, those trees were gone. I wrote a letter the day after the meeting copying, not that it matters anymore, Mr. Redden, the mayor, Shade Tree Commission, Mr. Brigliadoro, and what have you. We never received a courtesy response. And I think that's what upset me. I just pass that on so we can maintain good relationships going forward.
Sure. And my response is I actually never received that letter, so I don't know who else would have been responding. But
Well, you still have the comments from the meeting. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much for your courtesy presentation.
thank you.
Next application is New Jersey American Water.
Chairman, I don't think the mayor and I can hear this application, or is
That
that?
is correct. Are you recusing yourselves, gentlemen?
Yes, we are.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Neil O'Brien from the law firm of Archer and Griner for the applicant, New Jersey American Water Company. New Jersey American Water Company, of course, is a supplier or purveyor of potable water in Little Falls Township and lots of other areas. Public utility regulated by the Board of Public Utilities is proposing as part of the application this evening to install a booster pump station at 147 Long Hill Road, block 178, lot 6.01 on your township tax maps. That is a relatively small property, which was actually before you about a year or so ago by way of a subdivision approval. Your subdivision approval actually created the lot that New Jersey American Water had been sort of monitoring and hoping to locate the booster station on that lot. You'll hear in testimony why this lot was so critical or useful for the location of this facility. But the booster station is a conditionally permitted use in the R1A zoning district. There are 4 conditions attached to the use. The first one is that the facility must be located in the zoning district that it is located in. We'll provide testimony related to that. Second one is that adequate fencing and security and screening have to be provided. In providing that security, we are proposing a 7-foot high fence, which actually exceeds the height of 4 feet that is permitted by ordinance. We're going to ask you to accept that that 7-foot high fence is necessary for security and therefore a variance is not required for it. But if the variance is required for it, if that's your determination, we'll request the variance. The third conditional use standard is that the building has to be designed to be harmonious with the neighborhood and neighboring structures. We have, I think, gone a long way towards trying to achieve that end. The building, as you'll see in our testimony, does contain features that are vital to its public utility function, which can't be removed. So it can't look exactly like a single-family home. So again, we'll ask for your comment and input as to whether we've satisfied that standard. If we haven't satisfied it, we'll ask for the variance. And then the last conditional use standard, which we don't comply with, is that the facility has to conform with all other requirements of your zoning ordinance. At the time you granted subdivision approval to create this lot, you approved it with a non-conforming lot area and a non-conforming lot width. Of course, those two non-conforming conditions are still present today and would be for a single-family home or anything else. But because we don't comply with all of the other standards of the ordinance, we must and will request a variance from that conditional use standard. And as you've already, I think, accomplished here, those are D variances from conditional use standards. So we're asking you to exercise your zoning board of adjustment jurisdiction this evening rather than your planning board jurisdiction. So we have a couple of, I think 3 witnesses who will testify tonight. There were a couple of completeness items in your planner's review letter. So what's your pleasure, Mr. Chairman, with respect to those?
Go ahead.
We are requesting waivers from the submission of an environmental impact statement and a traffic impact study. Just due to the minor nature of the development that's proposed this evening, we do feel that those are appropriate and would ask the board to grant them.
Our engineers already said he did not have an issue for that, so it's good.
I acknowledge. Thank you, sir. So if I could, would you like council to swear in all our witnesses at once or as they come up?
I could swear them all in at one time.
Okay, great.
And
So Jim first. Andy.
gentlemen, please raise your right hand. You swear from the testimony that you're about to give before this board is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Just for the record, each of you, tell us your name and spell your last name, and then count when, as each witness comes up as an expert witness, council will dare you on your ability to testify as an expert.
Stephen Hawk, Stephen with a PH, and Hawk is HAWK, professional planner. So, yeah. Christopher Olson, OLSON.
Jim Floystra, F like a drink, LOY, excuse me, STROP. Senior project engineer for New Jersey American Water.
Andrew Balto,
Thanks.
So, Mr. Boystrop, if you ask. You're the senior project engineer from New Jersey American Water. You are here on behalf of New Jersey American Water.
Correct.
You're an engineer, but we also have a consulting engineer designing the building. Will describe the site.
That's right.
So, Mr. Boystrop put his qualifications on the record, but he's here for New Jersey American Water. We have an engineer to provide engineering testimony. So tell me what's your plan.
We need to know his background, education, and if the licenses are all presently in effect.
Absolutely. So I have a I've had to say this a while, a bachelor's of science in civil and environmental engineering from NGIT in 1990, and working as a consulting engineer most of my career. 6 years ago, joined New Jersey American Water, have testified before several boards such as yours.
Credentials are accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Boystrop, in my uneducated terms, I talked about a booster station. What is a booster pumping station? What does it do in terms of the water distribution system?
Yeah, and actually, I'll take a little pause right here to apologize if I cough, hack, or whatever. I'm getting over a bad cold, not contagious anymore, but want to miss tonight, so bear with me. Yeah, so a booster pumping station is a structure that contains pumps with inlet and outlet pipes connecting to the buried distribution system piping. It contains electric motors and controls to turn the pumps on and off as needed. The purpose of the pumps is to move water from one part of the distribution system to another, typically to increase flow and or pressure in part of the system. The increased pressure helps to meet peak demands in other parts of the system and to maintain water service throughout the system. Here, portions of the Little Falls service area are experiencing low pressure and flow issues. This project should help address those issues.
So the booster station contains pumps that increase the pressure of the water that's already flowing through the township and moves more water at a higher pressure in other parts.
Both higher pressure and flow.
Correct. Pressure and flow to satisfy peak demand and also to make sure there's adequate pressure for firefighting.
Correct.
So explain to the board a little bit about the portion of the system that say Little Falls and what this facility will address.
Right. So we provide water to Little Falls. That's water is bulk purchased from the Valley Water Commission. And in 2022, we provided an average of 1.445 MGD of potable water to.
That's 1.445 billion gallons per day.
Correct. The proposed project is part of our ongoing efforts to improve water service to our existing customers in Little Falls, and other recent improvements in the township included installation of a 12-inch water main along Hemlock Road.
So what will the project do in the context of Little Falls?
The project will provide a new primary source of supply from PBWC, and that will serve as an alternate to the existing supply from PBWC, which comes from their Great Notch Reservoir. The current emergency use only interconnection with PBWC will be utilized for the new primary source from PBWC. And that existing interconnection is located along Center Avenue and is fed by their 672 pressure gradient. The new primary PBWC source is necessary to supply proposed booster pumping station and will supply the Union Avenue, Great Notch, and Montclair pressure zones in Little Falls.
So when you talk about a pressure zone, you mentioned already, I think, 3 that are in Little Falls. What do you mean by that? It's a portion of the system, but all are the same system.
Yeah, so they're all interconnected, they're all part of our franchise, but basically, if everything was flat like the ocean, you would need one pressure zone, right? You'd want whatever, say 60 PSI above that elevation. Well, we're in New Jersey, it's not flat, so with varying terrain, you need different pressure zones. So the number I rattled off just a moment ago, 673, that's basically the hydraulic grade line of our connection with PBWC. And really what that means is, think of it as if you held that water up to that elevation, up in the sky. So if you held that to elevation 675, that's the pressure it's going to provide. And the pressure you see at a given elevation is the difference between those two elevations.
So the booster station helps to equalize or move pressure between those pressure zones that may be at different elevations.
Yeah, so what it does is it lets us fine tune the pressure within each varying elevation portion of the township.
So where are these 3 pressure zones, basically, in general?
Sure. The Union Avenue pressure zone serves the westerly portion of Little Falls. It extends easterly to the Great Notch pressure zone. Great Notch pressure zone serves the central portion of Little Falls. That zone is bounded by Lower Notch Road to the north, Morningside Circle to the west, Route 46 to the east, and the Montclair Boonton Line railroad tracks to the south. The Montclair pressure zone serves the eastern portion of Little Falls. The zone begins south of the Montclair Boonton Line railroad tracks and extends southerly to the township limits by Montclair State University.
So, yeah, these are not individual fiefdoms, they're all part of the same water distribution system. All right, you're okay. The
Warn you.
water company uses provide water to the residents of this and all across the Little Falls Township.
Correct.
So then what does the project do in terms of the pressure zone?
The proposed project will combine the Union Avenue pressure zone with the Great Notch pressure zone to create one larger, higher pressure zone, which will be referred to as the new Union Avenue pressure zone. The Union Avenue 385 pressure zone will be increased from 385 feet of pressure to 450. The Great Notch pressure zone will be increased from 425 feet of pressure to 450. Proposed booster pump station will convey water from new Union Avenue 450 pressure zone to the Montclair pressure zone. Excuse me, and I have a cough drop too. The Montclair pressure zone is currently solely supplied via interconnection with the Montclair Water Bureau. So the proposed booster pump station will increase available fire flows in the Montclair pressure zone, and it will also provide an alternate source of supply to the Montclair Water Bureau. The proposed booster pump station will contain 2 lower capacity pumps for satisfying domestic water demands, specifically one 200 GPM pump and 400 GPM pump are proposed. The booster pump station will also contain 2 higher capacity pumps for the conveyance of higher flows for firefighting purposes. Specifically, there will be 2 1,000 GPM high flow pumps proposed in the pump station. All 4 pumps will be equipped with variable frequency drives, which will allow the speed and hence flow rates to be varied as needed to satisfy system demands. Just like your gas pedal on your car. You know, you want to go faster, give it more gas. So you need more water, you speed up the pumps. Same concept.
And then the booster station will use that new name that you described in the block road to draw the water.
Correct. The booster pump station will draw water from the recently constructed 12-inch water main along Hemlock Road, and it will discharge via a new 12-inch water main be installed along the southerly extension of Long Hill Road to the railroad crossing to supply the Montclair gradients.
Obviously,
Correct. The only place they're not underground is within the building. New Jersey American spent over a year looking for available locations to construct a new booster pump station on. This site was determined to be the best location for the proposed booster pump station, as is located near the required existing infrastructure, meaning the pressure zone boundaries, and is not located within a floodplain or floodway.
so where all these pressure zones that you talked about mean is the approximate general location of the booster station.
Correct. It's on the boundary of the Union, of the Great Notch and the Montclair gradients.
So just talk about briefly about the facility operation itself. Now, this is nothing, it's not a big building, it's 25 by 45 feet, it's only 17 feet high. Now, will it have employees going in and out of it? What will happen there on a daily basis?
Sure. So it'll be an unmanned facility like all of our pump stations. Its function will be to transfer water from the Great Notch pressure zone to the Montclair pressure zone.
So it's nobody's in there on a basis. Does it have remote monitoring to New Jersey American Water's operations center, so you guys know what's going on there?
Correct. So we have all of our facilities are controlled remotely via SCADA system. And this facility will be operated continuously as needed to provide improved water service to the Montclair pressure zone. There won't be any chemicals used or stored at the booster pump station, and no related deliveries.
So you don't treat water there, you just,
It's already finished water, so we're just moving.
any, refuse, said there's no employees, refuse, recyclables, any domestic trash generated.
Yeah, I don't know if I said it, but typically somebody will stop by the facility once a day. Quick 15-minute visit in a small SUV or pickup truck, just to get eyes on the facility. So it's remotely monitored, but also somebody stops in once a day to check on it. So yeah, to answer your question, nobody's there, so there's no real large generation of refuse or recycling will be generated. Anything that is will just be removed by our maintenance personnel.
Typical for this type of facilities, there's events, controlled access, there's no public access, obviously.
Correct.
And then the 7-foot high fence, as I mentioned, that's typical for public utility facility and your experience, of course, New Jersey American Water facilities.
Yeah, specifically, we have a security group and they have a nationwide, because we're a nationwide company, American Water is. They have a nationwide security package that they want to see implemented at every facility, excuse me, which includes a 7-foot high fence.
Again, this location, spent about a year looking for a location in this area, near the boundaries of the Great Notch and the other pressure zones.
Yeah, so as I said, right, it must be located near the boundary of the Great Notch Pressure Zone and the Montclair Zone in order to serve its needed function of moving water between the zones. Suitable locations are accordingly very limited, particularly not being located within flood-prone areas. You know, addressing the resilience component. New Jersey American determined that this area is optimal for the location of the new booster pump station. Vacant properties like this for the booster pump station are very limited. And as soon as we learned the subdivision and availability of the property, as soon as the subdivision was complete, we were interested, and as soon as the subdivision was completed, we moved forward with our plans for the booster pump station and applications to the township. So it's currently planned to get the new facility in service by the end of 2028. Now, natural response might be, well, that's pretty far out. Why is that? And probably everybody's heard of PFAS, PFOA, lead services. So those regulatory drivers, which are hot topics right now, have basically, they're in the spotlight and have pushed out projects like this. So we started looking for a site, found a site, then those new regulations kind of hit the ground, so to speak, and kind of pushed the projects out. So that's why we kind of have an extent.
That's what I have in direct testimony from Mr. Boystrop, Mr. Chairman.
I thank you very much. I have one question. Just to put this in layman's terms, properties to the south, let's call it the School 2 side of Long Hill Road, have good, adequate water pressure. You agree? Well, living there.
So in that area, the main improvement is
Well, there won't be.
I'm sorry?
There won't be any improvement there, right? On the south side? Across the street from where your facility will be.
So if you're,
What
I'm
trying-
a
what
water
I'm-
engineer, so
What
I
I'm
think of
trying to
pressure
say,
zones.
this booster will improve the water pressure on your side of the street from between you and Route 46.
So it's going to increase pressure in the Union gradient pressure zone, Great Notch pressure zone, and probably most importantly, in addition to giving an alternate source to the Great Notch Reservoir, most importantly, it's going to increase available fire flows in the Montclair zone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions to the board?
Did you hear anything about the decibels that it's gonna create when the pumps turn on? Generators?
Not yet.
Okay,
Thank you. And thank you for bearing with me.
thank you. Feel better.
I could ask, our civil engineer, Chris Olson, provide testimony, testimony related to that consent. And we have, a first exhibit up there, which is a rendered site plan, it's just a rendered version of the site plan that you will see. We have some smaller versions that is difficult for you to see. A couple of them here before. Chris, while I'm doing that, but take your name and your professional affiliation.
My name is Chris Olson. I have a bachelor's degree of science in civil and environmental engineering from Rutgers University in 1999. I have over 25 years of experience doing civil engineering in the state of New Jersey, and I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey.
Are your licenses all in effect?
Yes,
Current, I think is the word I was looking for.
yes.
Thank you. You are accepted.
So, Mr. Olson, if you could, referring to the exhibit, bring it over here so you don't lose the microphone.
Thank you.
Could just orient the board to the location to the extent somebody hasn't been out there.
If members of the public can walk around so they can see this, you can. You stand over here perhaps.
Along the southern portion or the bottom portion of the map is Long Hill Road. Facility in the center. And to the top part of the page is Hemlock Drive. To the left is our closest residential neighbor. And to the right is not shown, but the church, Catholic Church. The parcel, as we mentioned before, is 9,335 square feet. The driveway is located here along Long Hill Road in the existing location of the compressed curb.
Mr. Chairman, maybe generally we have a presentation more towards that glass door and oriented
Sure.
towards the board and the public, so
Sure.
we don't have this constant movement of people.
That's good. That's good. We have our own, so that's good.
So, Mr. Olson, in terms of the facility design, could you describe the proposed improvement for the board?
Yes, the structure is a 45-foot by 25-foot structure. It will contain a pump room with 4 booster pumps, an electrical room, and a natural gas generator. We placed the natural gas generator as far as we can from the resident on the left side to make sure that we would have the least amount of sound impact.
Yeah, no storage, literally, no chemicals on site.
Correct.
So the property, it doesn't meet the minimum lot size, 15,000 square feet. Required, we have 9,335 square feet.
Correct.
And also lot width, of 86.11 feet doesn't meet the minimum lot width of 100 feet that's required.
That is correct.
These were approved by the subdivision, but because they don't perform with the ordinance requirements, we're asking for that D3 variance.
That is correct.
Any traffic generated by this facility?
No, as Mr. Floystrop said earlier, there'll be one visit to the site usually. And that person will be there for a short time, maybe 15 minutes daily, just to make sure everything's working properly.
This is a relatively small facility in terms of public utility facilities, I don't know to say. The water treatment, an operations center, a maintenance building, or even public offices, correct?
That is correct.
So in terms of the site design, is this property not sufficient for the operating facility?
Yes, it is.
We comply with the side yard setback requirement, requirement.
Yes, we do.
Driveway access is pointed to location. Is that the same location as the current driveway?
Yes, it is.
So driveway's already there, we're gonna pave it, we're gonna add granite curb in response to one of the questions in. You had your letter, we're giving it, correct?
That is correct.
The water main's already there, the stormwater main's already there, and sewer main's already there.
Yes, we did include a seepage basin underground for the roof leaders to minimize any impact, at least in a short term of rainfall.
And that's not the major development, that's the farm stormwater, right?
That is correct.
We're made aware that there are stormwater runoff in this area, so we made an effort to try to reduce the volume of the next development.
That is correct.
Describe the security, site security.
It is an American Water standard, as Mr. Fleischrop says, that American Water requires a 7-foot fence for security purposes. Shorter fences would not provide as secure of a facility. We did opt to put a decorative fence to try to fit in with the local community.
And that fence area is around the building, right? It's not the entire property.
That's correct.
Mr. Boyce testified that this would not be a manned facility with no employees. So do we need dedicated parking spaces in here?
No, we don't.
And has your firm analyzed the turning? It's got to back out of the street.
Yes, we did, and we did design it so that a person could perform a K-turn and always come out facing front.
So I've been a residential zone landscape, or it's always important. What happens to
Two things come to mind. Number one, in the front of the property, we intend to maintain the existing trees there to, stay with what the community is used to, and, maintain the life of those trees. And then on the side of, yes, that side, we implemented a row of arborvitaes. We put them in as densely as possible to minimize visual and sound impact of the next door neighbor.
There's also some landscape proposed there on a little property finger to the rear of it, right?
Correct.
And then there's some existing vegetation, which is ours, but we can take advantage of on what I believe is the township's property, that of course will remain.
Correct.
In terms of noise effects, are the pumps a significant noise generator?
No, they're not.
So what do you mean by that? If I was standing outside of the building with my ear against the door and pumps activate, will they hear them?
I don't know. That I would say no, but maybe you have good hearing. No, it would not be loud. Yeah,
If I was standing at the front of the property or on the property next door, would I hear those pumps?
I doubt you would.
How about the generator?
The generator is louder than the pumps. We did place it as far away as possible. The generator is an emergency generator. It will only run one time per month for testing purposes to make sure it works. And then it would also run in the event of a power outage.
That's right.
Correct. Correct.
I think that's what I have in front of the testimony for Mr. Oldham.
Thank you. Any questions to the board members?
Hear what the decimal was. I just heard, I didn't really hear anything, just heard could be depends, right? So we don't know what the decibel count could be once the pumps are on inside the building.
I don't have that information for
Did
you.
we do any noise mitigation plans or monitors around the area to see what it is currently versus what's going to be when the pumps are on and the generator is on?
Did not complete a noise study, but we would be certainly willing to do it as a noise test. As a condition of approval, you actually measure this. I think his testimony was hardly hear it outside the door, which means it certainly would be loaded. We did like 50 dBA, nighttime, and certainly 65 dBA, the daytime, which is basically left lower than.
Does the test take place at night or during the day? Thank you.
Sure. That's
I would need to talk to a noise specialist to does that. The duration of the test. Oh, the generator test. Oh, usually an hour, couple hours, usually done during the, I got confused what you meant by the test. But the generator test usually runs for an hour or a couple hours during the day while people are working and hopefully people aren't home to disrupt it.
Regular weekday?
Yes.
Let me ask a question of Commissioner Cambiano. How long does the one run by you? On the property, I can't remember the name of the street, Sixum or whatever, over by PSEG.
Walnut Drive. I don't live there anymore.
Okay. Do the present owners ever complain?
Not that I'm aware of, but
Very good. Thank you.
The lighting, on the site, but obviously due to security purposes, lighting will be on the site. What's the timing of that lighting? And what's the row of that lighting? I didn't happen to see a lighting,
So the reason there was no lighting on this is there's no pole mounted lights or, lights in sky need for this facility because it basically operates itself. And
It will be,
so the door lights at the doors, right?
yes, yes,
So they turned on when needed and switched off when the person needs. Most of the employees work 9 to 5, so
correct,
it would be very, very kind of like.
correct.
Very-
That's also correct, yes.
Regarding the building design, isn't it typical to have soundproofing in the generator room to contain those?
Yes.
And that will be present, yes.
That will be included. And in the general building design itself, will it be insulated otherwise? Do you have a heat source? Is it climate controlled?
Yes, yes, it'll be climate controlled to keep the equipment from
And what
freezing.
kind of heat?
Uh,
Electric or?
oh, I don't know. Sorry.
Our architect will actually speak to that, and he's going to talk about the building design aesthetically, and he can speak to what's in there.
Okay, you are the engineer. I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but should we address our engineer's report? Reports?
Sure. Received of February 2025. Report from Lionel, your board engineer. There were a few technical comments. Take no exception to the comments. We agreed to change the concrete curb to granite block curb. We'll provide a copy of the survey. We'll note the owners of the drainage and sanitary sewer easements to the township. I think we've given the testimony regarding the emergency generator. We'll provide the actual noise levels offered for them as additional approval if you wish. We are just about to talk about the colors of the brick facade. We talked about the lighting, and we'll provide all outside agency approvals to you upon our receipt.
How about the driveway and fence being installed over the sanitary sewer easement?
There are no restrictions.
Thank you. For our engineer, do you have any questions? Statement?
just want to confirm once per month that it's the only time we need to exercise the generator.
That would be typical. I'll ask Mr. Boystrop the case. He says yes.
And time of day that would occur.
Between 9 and 5.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a half an hour.
Well,
Half an hour.
thank you. So,
Any further questions from the
can I
board?
go on real quick with the fencing that goes around the property? Is it how far off the road is it enough for a car fit there without blocking the street at all? Is it a key they get into the fence with?
Oh, the entry gate.
Yes.
Yes, they can get into the driveway before and then open the gate. The car will already be off the driven way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that an automatic gate or a manual gate?
I believe it's automatic. Did we change that? Automatic. The gate, I believe, is automatic. Is that correct?
The gate, is manually operated. It manually opened, yes, by our employees.
So that's an automatic thing?
Yeah,
I'm sure our fire department would probably want a siren blast for open.
absolutely.
Agreed. Mr. Boystrop, we just would just like to add a little more information about what, this obviously is not the first generator. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what's been done at other facilities, and what will be done.
Before we do that, are there any other questions to the engineer? Proceed. Thank you. Cough drop work?
Yeah, we always like to tell people, we're the best neighbor you could have. We don't have parties. We don't stay up late. We don't play last minute. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So I wanted to just really expand a little bit upon the questions about the generators. They're obviously, let's be frank, they're noisy. We're used to dealing with them. Typical construction will have special block. The building's going to be concrete block. It's called sand block, so it's sand attenuating block. We'll do acoustic installation over top of it. We don't want the roof basically to act like a drum skin, so you got to intercept those noises as they propagate out. We'll use acoustical louvers. So I think I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little more reassurance. I mean, the proof's in the pudding, as Neil said, post-construction measurements. The engineer who does the final design has to, do that sound study to make sure they don't waste our money, that the thing meets it. But we're used to doing all kinds of creative things to keep those noise levels down and be compliant. Even as much as, I don't know if you've ever seen a generator mounted on the exterior. So exposed, they'll have their own enclosure from the manufacturer, which really attenuates noise. In the worst case scenario, sometimes we'll put those inside of our buildings to get kind of the double sound reduction, if you will, if necessary. Typically, it's not. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Balco, over here and before this board, could you give the board the benefit of your professional qualifications, your qualifications by testimony for?
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Architecture from NJIT, 1987. I was registered in the state as a licensed architect in 1990. I've testified in front of many planning boards and architectural.
License is current?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much. Accepted.
Thank you. So the water company asked you to design a building, gave you some direction to how that design should be. What was your mission in designing this building?
Right. So knowing the area where this building is, we were told to be sympathetic with the general neighborhood. So the neighborhood consists of both church and I'll say a very assortment of residential dwellings.
And so you're aware of the condition that requires this building to be environmental.
Correct.
What are some of the difficulties in achieving that design? There's some features here that they just have to be there. They're not quite residential.
Yeah.
Make sure they don't quite blend with the residences, maybe with the church, but they're necessary to serve the public.
Yes. So as you might expect, we don't really have many windows in an unoccupied building. We do have a few openings though, and those openings have louvers in them for ventilation of the equipment within the building. There are varied sizes, depending on what they're used for. So on the southeast corner, we have large louvers, which we've been talking about for the emergency generator. In the pump room and in the electrical rooms, we have smaller generators that would just be for ventilation purposes.
And so, what we have visible to the board now is outlet lake only 2, which was the design that was submitted with the application.
Right.
But I'm going to actually quickly move off of that to A3, which is a revised design that we submitted in response to the fact that planning associates reviewed for the board and made some changes. So with the changes in mind, the thing to describe what we come up with, get as close as we can.
Right. So to be more harmonious, fit in with the residential standard, did a few things to try and improve the look of the original proposal. I'll start on the south side, which is in the upper left corner. That is the side that faces the street. There was a louver over the top of the double doors that you enter the pump room. We took that louver off of the top of the door and we put openings on either side of the door to make it look open. Also in that same area, we added a gable dormer to kind of break down the massing of the building a little farther than we already have the two height. On the north side of the building, the back side, we also lengthened the louvers to make them more residential size. They were squares before, now they're rectangles to be more residential in character. And then what we did all the way around the building is we added a base, a darker colored brick to try and give it a more classic composition to the side.
Now, for these elevations, of course, they do not show what the building will look like with the landscape. So,
They do not.
They show the building, the design of the building, and not obscurely by, dark properties, et cetera. Building. Will mean and see lots of the
That's
So which of these gables will be very close to the residence?
so that would be the west side, which is the bottom right corner. There are no openings on that elevation at all.
That'll be obscured by a very dense row of apartment buildings.
That is correct.
The current facade is red, right?
Yeah, a combination of I'll say a lighter red brick and a darker sort of brownish color.
One of the board members asked what would be the source of that climate controlling.
Yeah, so there is I'll say conditioning system. It's a heat pump system. So there'll be units in each room to adjust for the heat, especially in the summertime. And then in the wintertime, it would also provide heat. Can I add one?
Sure.
One additional comment about the lighting. So we do have lighting. It's recessed in the soffit above each door. So there's the double doors on the south side. And then on the east side, we also have, a second man door into the generator room. And then we have a third door into the electric. Each one will have a recessed fixture above that door. You will not see light fixture.
Just manual control.
Well, so by code, we have to have it emergency operated. So if there's emergency in the building, they will go on automatically. But otherwise, they'll operate manually.
What colors are you using?
So we have two bricks. We have more of, I'll say, a light red brick, kind of sympathetic to the church. I did bring samples. There was a request to, so. So this would be the shingle for the roof. Now, this is the base brick, and then this is the body brick that would be above that. That's the combination. So this is closer to what the church is right now. This is what we're talking about.
Do you share that with the neighbors? Can you bring that over also? They're all over here on the right.
So dark color base, light color will be on top.
Thank you.
Any other questions about it?
Any questions from the board?
Yes, I'm not sure if I'm asking the right person. I believe I am. There's a statement of a decorative fence. What does that mean?
Aluminum picket fence. Painted aluminum picket fence.
Like, or it's,
Yes, yes.
so it's like almost like a wrought iron kind of fence.
Yeah, yeah.
What type of,
What's the spacing? What's the spacing on it? I think we have a drawing. If you tell them it's 45 inches on the center.
I'm sorry, I say that this is on the drawing.
Okay, it's on sheet C8 in the middle of the top.
I can't tell from here. Can you see through the fence or not?
Yes.
Thank you.
The plans you just passed out do not indicate an exhaust manifold for the generator. Will that be a roof penetration?
It'll be a roof penetration.
On what elevation would be?
It would be on the roadside, actually. The generator's on the south.
So
east corner.
would it be on the west elevation,
Uh,
closest to the west?
Yeah, it would be close.
In other words, above the generator room.
Above the generator room, which is
Yeah.
on the south side.
Yeah.
South. It would be somewhere in here.
Mhm.
Will there be any exterior controls for your heating system? There'll be a condenser on the ground. Where will that be located? I think we have it on the back side. That's also shown on the site. Sorry, it's in the north east corner of the building. At the end of your driveway? Yes. Can you show me where the louvers are on the building right now that are being proposed? On plan? Yep, right there. There's an intake louver on acceleration. And then so when I say intake, it's the cooling of the generator. And there'll be an exhaust heat louver on the side.
Can you just explain what a louver is? I understand, maybe just for clarification.
Sure. Louver is an opening in a building to allow air to enter or exit for ventilation purposes. There are horizontal members in there to control rain infiltration. And if we can also, as Neil said, add acoustical value to those louver to reduce the amount of noise that would either enter or escape. Answer your question?
Are those louvers facing any residents?
I don't think so. Not direct, well, across the street, I guess, yes. So on the south side across, but it's not directly across. It's diagonally down.
And there's no louvers to the west?
There are none.
Can you tell us a little about the drainage system, the gutters? Where would they be? The downspouts will be leading to surface?
No, they don't. They go to that underground drainage system that we talked about earlier that Chris mentioned. So there are gutters that go all the way around the perimeter of the building. They'll be at the edge of the roof, and there'll be leaders on each elevation, and that water will be collected and taken underground to that treatment.
I missed that. I'm sorry. Is that a detention system?
There's an underground seepage pit, which is a little bit like a dry well with
Oh, that's already there.
perforated pipe and stone.
It's proposed. I see. Thank you.
There's currently, for the residents on the western side of the property, the home that's right next to it, on Long Hill, about a vinyl fence that runs almost about 25 feet to the road. How are you going to accommodate that fence, your arborvitae's and your fence?
They'll be between the existing fence and the new fence. That's up. You look at the plan. They're on the outside of our new fence, but to the outside of the neighbor's fence.
How tall do the arborvitae's grow?
So you're gonna put a fence on a fence?
No, the fences are separated by, I'll say, a few feet, and the arborvitae are planted between them.
You are a man of many skills. Thank you.
Has there been a conversation with your neighbor or a potential neighbor regarding your arborvitae's on like that very unmanageable space? Just, being a homeowner myself, I understand somebody puts a fence right up against my fence, or it's an area that's just not manageable to get through because we place an arborvitae there and basically you can't get to either side of it. Has there been a conversation with the neighbor or no? I understand that the New Jersey Water is a wonderful neighbor and won't make noise at night, but there's you might make noise at night. Not throwing parties, but you may want to talk to your neighbor at some point about your property line plans.
So our fence isn't on the property line. It's within our property.
Right, you're putting plantings though, right above, right. So I'm just saying, it's just as, not because there's zoning or anything like that, just being a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Planting things right on the property line adjacent to the fence, it's gonna make it very difficult for them to be on the other side of the fence to service or to clean it, or for them to be a good neighbor to you.
We'll reach out.
Yeah, for sure.
They may.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Bell.
Just sorry, one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Will you ever be accessing Hemlock to get to the property? Never? No.
We were told that was not one of the township.
Just wanted it on the record.
And is there any fence break aside from the driveway? Like a egress, no, where, anywhere around the property, line, you know, there's no other openings?
Mr. Hall, I think for the benefit of your professional qualifications that, allows us to provide testimony here this evening as licensed professional.
Sure. I've been practicing planning since 1988. That was after a degree at Stockton University. And I got a Bachelor of Science and then another additional 21 credit hours at Rutgers University in Urban and Regional Planning. I've been licensed for over 30 years now in the state of New Jersey. It is current and in good standing. Member of the American Institute of Certified Planners for over 30 years. 28 years with the city of Vineland as the review planner for development applications, and now private practice. I've been before over 50 boards throughout the state and qualified as an expert.
I would have interrupted him, but that was such a great. Anyway, you credentials are accepted. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Hawk, you looked at the plans here, obviously, you listened on other occasions to the applicant, the water companies, and need for this facility, purpose of this facility, right?
I have. I've listened to all the testimony tonight.
And you looked at the surrounding neighborhood and the location of the pump station.
That's correct.
What did you?
Well, I concluded based on the D3 variance that's required, that in looking at the Little Falls ordinance, we only miss out on two aspects of the conditional. As you know, when a use is deemed conditional use, it's basically permitted as long as you meet all the conditions. But in our case, just for lot width and lot area, if not for that, this would be a permitted use and it would be allowed by right. And I'd like to, do you want me to go into the testimony of the D3 variance? So a D3 variance is one of the 6 D variances that the zoning board can grant. And it's when there is one of the specific or one or more of the specific standards of the conditional use are not met. In our case, there's a total of 4 conditions in Little Falls ordinance, which allows essential public utility pump stations and substations, which are permitted conditionally in this zone. And the very first condition cannot be located in any other district. It's our burden to prove that that's the case. And you heard the testimony from the representative from New Jersey American Water, and it's a very key, specific, meaningful place to have this pump station in this location because of how it interrelates with multiple pump areas and pump systems that they have, and the blending of that water and the blending of the pumping facilities is key. The fact that there is also the facilities and the water lines at this location. It was an exhaustive search for quite a while. And there was also a need to have it in an uplands location, and that met that. So I feel it meets the condition 1 that it cannot be located in any other district. So with regards to condition 2, it has to be housed in a building that harmonizes with the character of the neighborhood. And you heard the testimony from our architect. You saw the brick samples and the roof samples, and you saw some of the minute details that were provided and given based on your board professionals' comments to even fine-tune it even more to have features like dormers and sloped roofs and brick and different colors of brick, variations in the louvers, and even the rectangularization of the louvers in order to make them look more residential. This is a public utility building and it's going to serve that purpose. So it's really hard to get it look to get it to look exactly like a home, but it's been,
Does the conditional use standard require it to be exactly like the home?
it does not. Just harmonious. And as far as harmonious goes, if you want to just talk about brick and the materials perspective, that corner has the church, which it's going to match. It has, not right on the corner, but just off the corner is the fire station. And then also, I think it's the Little Notch Village apartment complex that's also brick. So there is a lot of brick at this area. There's brick at various other locations. There's one at 31 Hemlock and a couple of them that are also along the neighborhood. So because of that, I feel that it is harmonious with the character of the neighborhood.
What about the third?
The third condition is that there be adequate fences, safety devices, adequate screening and landscaping. And we definitely have satisfied that. 7-foot high fence. It's going to be not only there for security because we don't want anyone to get into this facility, but it's also going to look decorative and have a nice appeal to it with the darker metal finish. And there'll be evergreens on the westerly side for the most part to screen the adjacent residential use, plantings throughout the site, and then a locking gate for security. So it meets the third condition as well.
The conditional use standard asks us to provide adequate fencing, and the water company's determination is 7-foot high fence. It's the adequate fence, but it exceeds the maximum permitted for other uses in the district. Is that correct?
That's correct. My reading of the ordinance is that a 4-foot high fence is the max in the front yard, and a 6-foot high fence is the maximum in the side yard. So I don't know if any part of this fence qualifies as a side yard, but it's only 1 foot higher than the maximum allowed in the side yard, based on the ordinance.
And then how about that last?
That last one is all other standards, and I count there to be 1, 2, 6. Actually, 8 other standards that are ordinance standards that in the R1 zone or RA1 zone. And we meet most of them except for 2. The ones that we meet are front yard on Hemlock, we're 30 feet from the right-of-way line versus 30 required. We also meet the dimension from Long Hill Road, 31.8 versus 30. We meet the side yard, both the minimum at 10 and the total. We're 40.4 total versus 25. Maximum building coverage, we're at 12.1%, and that zone allows 25%. So we're half, actually less than half of that amount. Maximum height, zone allows 2.5 stories and 35 feet. We're at 1 story and 15 feet. And minimum ground floor area, there is a requirement to have at least 700 square feet on the ground in that zone. We have 1,125. And as far as impervious coverage, 31.8% is our amount, and there is an allowance for 55%. So we meet all those. The 2 that we don't meet are kind of the 2 that are out of our control because the lot exists. The width and the area. The width being 86.11 versus 100 feet, and the area being 9,355 versus 15,000 square feet. I would make the argument that those lot dimension standards, 15,000 and 100, were single family uses and designed for that. And the chart in the ordinance, our use is actually in the single family row. And we don't need all the things that a single family home needs. We're not going to put a deck or a pool or a shed in. So we can take care of what we need to take care of on a smaller lot very efficiently. And that's really where the focus of the D3 Coventry Square case variance goes. Coventry Square was a case that gave rise to the fact that whatever deviations you have, you try to reconcile it and see that the site can still manage and still survive and be suitable, even though you don't meet all the standards. We don't meet those 2 standards, but based on what we're doing and based on the intensity and the infrequency of visits and the amount of space that we need, this site survives and is suitable despite not meeting those two standards. So that's the D3 positive criteria. Yep.
Just staying on positive criteria for a moment. You've heard and noted with the need for this facility and the great benefit that it serves. Could this facility be deemed an inherently beneficial?
It can. And I'll read the definition from the statute. Universally considered to be of community value that municipalities should be favorably disposed towards their inclusion. And the demand for that higher pressure and that proper pressure during high demand periods is a very beneficial use, not only for the region, but also for Little Falls Township and the uses that are nearby. Montclair State has use of the water system, also various businesses, industries, and the residential uses nearby. So I do feel that it is important to have these booster pumps, and it is inherently beneficial.
So it's not listed as one of the inherently beneficial uses.
Not.
But it could satisfy the definition.
Yes.
How about the negative criteria?
So on the negative criteria, prong one, which is no substantial detriment to the public good, has to do with whether it takes away from the character of the neighborhood and whether it is something that would be a detriment to the character. And we've already talked about and given quite a bit of testimony and design on the building itself and how it is going to meet the character as far as building materials, roof slopes, and generally just being almost not quite a mini house, but being of that character and having a smaller structure that's going to have some house and some residential type character. So it doesn't take away from the character of the neighborhood. There is a church next door, which is a non-residential use, which is institutional use. So given that and weighing that against the fact that there's this great public benefit for the booster pumps, it does not rise to being substantial.
The second part of the negative criteria for the variance is reconcilable with the very fact that the conditions are in the ordinance.
That's correct. This is a conditional use. It is permitted as a conditional use. We meet all the standards of that conditional use except for the two that are out of our control because the lot exists. And the deviations are appropriate for allowing this lot to function as a public facility.
Small lot.
Correct.
So if the board were to determine that this use is inherently beneficial, does this application satisfy the site balancing test?
It does, and I can.
Right?
Yep. The first
It's not
step.
complicated.
That's right, and we've established that the need to have the various uses in the area and the system to be properly pressurized. Firefighters, industry, residential uses, yes.
So the second prong then is detrimental impacts.
That's correct.
Our testimony has been there are none or very few of them.
Minimal noise, if any, definitely below the decibel levels that are mandated by through DEP. There's no treatment at this site, so there'll be no odors or chemicals on site. No production of water is going to take place here, and no really assigned personnel to spend the day here. There'll be the infrequent visits for the testing and for the maintenance. So the detrimental impacts are very small.
Then the third step is mitigating conditions.
That's
We've
correct.
already made changes to site in response to the engineering planner's letter to make this more aesthetically pleasing, correct?
Yep. It would be the decorative fence, plantings,
Noise
mitigation. Harmonizing architecture, and the fact that the natural gas generator is over to the opposite side of the dwelling. Those are some things that we've done to mitigate the impacts.
And the others to the board might be appropriate.
Correct.
So then the fourth last step, the weighing test, is that easy here?
That's very easy. The scale tips heavily in our favor of the public benefit versus the very little impact that this will have.
So just before we go, that's if it's determined to be a variance, 7 foot high versus 5 foot high. Can we justify the additional height?
Yes, because of the benefits of the use that's proposed versus the very little detriment. Like I said, 6 foot high fences are allowed in side yards. This is 7, so it's only 1 foot higher. And then in the front yard, it's 7 versus 4. The Pullman case says that when the benefits of the overall development are strong enough and overpowering for even with a C2 variance, that it could be granted if the overall benefits of what's being proposed outweigh any detriment.
Just in terms of this facility, additional height provides security, which would be the first purpose of zoning or welfare, helping to assure no trespass, no interference with the public water supply, and certainly serve the public health, morals, and welfare.
That's correct.
Any other purposes don't you pick up satisfied here?
Just public health and public safety are the two. And the fact that the fence is 7 feet, it does provide security. So that's important. And that is a big benefit. Your ordinance does talk about having a fence not be any more closed than 50%, and we're well less than that.
Any questions from Mr. Hall?
Any questions from the board? I would like to ask our planner, Mr. Barry, if he has any comments.
Sure. Just a question first. Evening, Mr. Hawk. In your practice, do you typically review residential developments as part of your work?
When I was with the city of Vineland, hundreds and hundreds.
Do you have any opinion?
Subdivisions and minor subdivisions.
Sure. Do you have any opinion about the relative intensity of development? Were this a single family dwelling as permitted in the zone versus what is being proposed?
Yeah, my knowledge of public utility facilities based on the amount of traffic trips, 1 per day in and 1 out, is well less than the 10.1 that the RSIS standards have as a typical trip generation for a single family dwelling. The amount of impact or intensity of a single family dwelling versus this, there are probably no weekend visits and no weekend or late night activity. So the intensity of this would be well less than a permitted use, which is a single family dwelling.
And as you mentioned, the proposed impervious coverage, the proposed building coverage are below what would be permitted otherwise.
That's correct.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, in terms of the standards for the conditional use variance, thinking about the intensity of the use on the property, whether the property can accommodate the use, I think that the testimony has been on the mark. I think that valid questions and concerns have been raised, particularly about noise, and we've heard certain representations that I think that we need to ensure that there's appropriate conditions to follow through with any mitigating factors if they need to be put into place after the project's online. But otherwise, in my view, this is likely a lesser impact than a new residential building, would be much larger, most likely, and generally have more activity. And then as to the fence question, normally I don't always subscribe to the idea that a C bulk variance is subsumed into a use variance as a matter of course, but because the conditional use standard talks about appropriate safety and security, I think in this case, the fence variance is really almost encouraged by the conditional use standards. So I wouldn't see issue with that, provided the board agrees.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Any additional questions of the board before I open the meeting to the public? May I have a motion to open the meeting to the public? Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The meeting is now open to the public. Anyone wishing to come and address the board to ask questions of all the professionals that presented, be aware that you will be sworn in, the quasi-legal hearing, so your testimony back the entire meeting is recorded. Anyone wish to step up? Ladies first.
And please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give before this board is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please tell us your name, spell your last name, and give us your address.
Norma Ketterer, Ketterer.
Your address.
141 Long Hill Road.
Good.
So my house is directly next to the one that's next to the project, down the downhill side. I do remember when we were talking, when Mr. Franzuto wanted the variance for this property several years ago, we were in a Zoom meeting, and the suggestion was to make the lot larger, that the township might settle in that strip on the other side, which had that happened, it would have been able, you wouldn't have been able to move this building further away from the immediate house. I have the same concerns I had at that time. I heard that they want the environmental study waived. I don't object to that. Even though my house is about equidistance from a house in the back on Marguerite Court. When they put that house in, they had to blast the rock. I'm going to take a wild guess that because this is the same piece of mountain, that station's going to have to be blasted out. And I think that there needs to be a study to find out what exactly is under the piece of land. Maybe they have that and they haven't shared it. When they put that house in the back, my whole house shook. I think if it's determined that there is bedrock under there, that someone needs to post a bond to compensate the neighbors for damage to their property if blasting has to occur to put that in. I'm also concerned with the runoff. My house is a brownstone foundation. It's been there 130 years. I still have to have a French drain on the uphill side and a huge sump pump and a backup pump. The runoff is significant. I heard the testimony that there's going to be a collection tank, but that collection tank, as I understand it, and I'm not an engineer, has little holes in it or feeders where that water gradually goes out into the surrounding area. Is that correct? Am I correct on that?
Mr. O'Brien, can your professionals address that?
It doesn't go into the sewer. It gets expelled into the surrounding.
If you're commenting, can you step up to the microphone? We don't want to lose. Because we can't hear you.
She asked whether it was connected to the sewer. It's not connected to the sewer. It will infiltrate into the soil.
And
The blasting?
the blasting? Now what's under that?
My firm has not been engaged in exploring the.
There won't, the water company is sure there won't be any blasting. The foundations don't go any lower than the depth of the existing water mains, which are already underground along that and along the driveway. And to your first point about the water company probably like to have that still a strip of land, but can't move the building over any further because we have that east that runs from cul-de-sac that has the sewer leading, that has the storm drain.
Okay.
So we really could go any further, at least that's what the current zone.
Okay. So what about the possibility of posting a bond in case there is blast?
We would deal with that on a case by case basis. We can't bond for every single eventuality, but certainly if the water company does some damage to somebody's house, it'll be.
So we can do pre and post condition surveys if there is a blasting and vibration monitoring.
Yeah,
Well,
if there's blasting, we have this on the whole separate.
There'll be, if the counter rock would be really chipping, absolutely.
the both surrounding properties, correct?
The sound issue, is that study done after the building is installed or before, is it done on similar facilities in other areas to determine what the sound level is.
It would be done after, so measure what the actual sound is, and if the sound levels don't meet the EPA requirements, we'd be required to do something further. We don't just get to put our hands up and say, oh, let's start to try. We would have to bring those levels down, or we get a strictly high.
Okay. Is the generator inside the building or out?
It's inside, it's, we provide the test as well, just go ahead and read the test of that. It's in the side of the building, it's furthest away from specifically so further away from the residences. And then around the generator, there are what they refer to as sound attenuators. Mr. Boystrap described a block that has sand on the inside of it to soak up that sound. Same thing, I think he said would be on the roof so that the sound doesn't emanate through the roof. And again, sound levels need to be measured from the property lines, make sure that at the property line, we're not exceeding the sound.
When we're talking about decorative fence, are we talking about a similar picket fence, high picket fence such as is around the reservoir on this road? It's a high green fence with a curvature to prevent. For residential, okay. What's the approximate distance between that, the left end of the building to the neighbor's fence? It looks rather narrow. You're talking about arborvitae. It is 10 feet. It's 10 feet from the edge of the building to the neighbor's fence. Okay.
Assuming that is right on the property.
Okay.
It's 10 feet from the property to the property.
And the fence will be around the building, not the entire.
Correct. So the little square, you can see it there, that Mr. Albert pointed out. So yes, there'll be large portions of the property that will still be open, especially towards the rear around the cul-de-sac. And water company only secures its facility. So it's not going into the building because vehicles have to get in there, but it represents a third of the property cul-de-sac distance.
So are those, I'm assuming that's landscaping at the far end of that parking lot in front of the property? That row there? Yes. Okay. And the original trees will be retained. Okay. All the questions I have. Thank you.
Mrs. Ketterer,
Yes.
I compliment you on your questions. Well done. Anyone else?
Please raise your right hand. You swear from the testimony you're about to give before this board is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please tell us your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, sir.
My name is Daniel Geary. I live at 152 Long Hill Road. And on your map, that would be number 2, directly across on the south side.
Can you spell your last name,
Spell your
please?
last name.
Last name?
Yeah.
Geary.
Thank you.
But building number 2, directly across, well, I'm sorry, building number 3, directly across on the south side of the facility, the proposed building. So questions, yes, but a little background on myself. I'm retired, so I do have a little more time now at the home. And I should point out, in my 45 years of working in the film industry, I built a few sound studios. Now, in doing so, you had to make sure that they were quiet. And if there was any equipment going in and out of that, or on top of the buildings, it had to be quiet, such as an air conditioning unit, et cetera. In this case, they're talking about pumps being placed on, as I understand it, concrete base. Would that be correct, gentlemen? Okay.
Again, if you're going to answer, please come up so we can hear you over the microphone.
I'll try to make my,
Not you, no.
I understand.
Yes, the pumps are located on concrete floor and dumpster.
Okay. Now, before we get to the number of pumps that are necessary for this work, I question on the pumps, as far as sound, will they be placed on vibration isolation? Vibration isolators? That's one question regarding sound.
Architects indicate yes.
Yes? Are you familiar with vibration?
They're not typically,
That's just another sound actuator that should be taken into consideration. That I living right across the street and a number of less than 100 feet, I will hear that. Now, you're also placing louvers that are facing the south side. As I see it, it's not, we're not seeing that right on here, but those louvers, I don't know about the spacing, and I know that you have to go ahead and do that for cross ventilation from the west side and from the south side, but nothing on the west side. And that's good for my neighbor, who I'm sure you'll hear from. But I will hear, trust me, and I do have hearing aids, so I will be hearing those. When I'm sitting on my front porch and I'm trying to enjoy, say, in the summer, a nice ice cold tea, and I hear traffic all the time, but I know I will hear those pumps. So I am concerned about that. As far as the 9 to 5 going off, the generator, that is run by gas, as I understood. Is that correct?
Yes.
That was run by gas. All right. Lighting is a concern. Again, sitting on my front porch and I'm enjoying the evening and listening to the crickets. I may be listening to pumps across the street, but lighting is another concern that I have. You mentioned 24-hour lighting on this facility, but they're going to be on sensors, or is there more information on the lighting? Will you be putting additional lighting in the parking lot for when somebody pulls in, if they have to get there for, say, an emergency run? You just indicate lights going underneath and soffit above a door. And 2 doors, as a matter of fact. 3 doors. Okay. That's after you get into the fence, which operates, the fence operates on a sensor, I think. But if the electricity is not working, how did you get past the fence? So if you can answer that question, is there another gate for personnel to enter the facility through the gates, aside from the operating gate? Do you have another way to get into it?
No, we do not.
Okay. Just something that we might want to ask about and where that would be located. All right, lighting, pumps are a question. Now, I understand I'm not going to be getting any benefit from from the water being pumped up the hill. And I've seen a number of pumps over the years in other areas in New York City. A friend of mine worked for the New York City Department of Water and over by the Croton Reservoir. I'm originally lived in New York State, and I'm familiar with how they added new pumping stations from the 19th century into the 20th century to bring us into the 21st century, all based on demand. Now, this may be, as I understand it, may be for something that's going to be for people 50 years from now. My first question is, in your planning, are you planning for more buildings to be put in? Number one, are you planning for the university to have use for this pumping station? Because
The water company doesn't plan for additional buildings. The water company does tests or does studies to determine or try to predict demand. Other folks build buildings, other folks build the university, other folks increase the population. The water company doesn't do that.
well, Norma, I wish you could ask that question, because as far as studies are concerned, that's one I'd like to know more about. Because I mean, I'm going to be around 50 years from now, but some of you folks might be, and your children might be. So I'm curious about how that works, because this only is beneficial, as I understand it, to people who are on the north side of Long Hill Road. And why do we have to have 4 pumps in a building this size? Why do we even have to have a building this size? That's another question I have. I see other pumping stations down the hill working for the Newark, the city of Newark. And excuse me, I'm a little nervous being up here in front of you. But as far as getting water over the hill to be pumped all the way to the city of Newark, well, this is only for a small area of people, and you have 4 pumps. That I don't understand. Now, is that in some of your studies too? Why do we have 4 pumps?
Mr. Floystrock explained that where the area that each pump serve, we have them repeat that testimony, or we'd like to hear it again.
No,
No, you heard it already. All right. I'm sorry, I was a little late. I was with Mickey Sherrill. She was having her town hall meeting over at Montclair State University, ran a little late, so I couldn't get here right for the beginning of this one. So you'll have to excuse me. I was worried more about tariffs and what's going on in Washington. But aside from that, I can always read those minutes if I wanted to later. But basically, you've answered all those questions now. I guess I'll ask the board if I can.
sure.
If I could bring some issues that I have concern about with the idea of this pumping station be there.
You can make your comments. We will not respond.
Very good, understood. First comment is the fact, why do we need such a big building in a small area? Yes, I am concerned. It's right across the street from my house. All right. What's it going to do for my resale value? That's a concern I have. Not everyone else does. You know, how long this is going to take to build? I hear you're looking to get this done by 2028. When do you, upon approval, when do you expect to go ahead and break ground to start this?
They can answer these questions. for
Yes,
you.
so you can answer that question, right, gentlemen? Upon approval, when do you expect to break ground? How soon after? You would begin 2027 is the construction start. Okay. Condition 1 under your variances. Now, there was 3 conditions I heard. I'm not a planner. I don't get involved with that, but I am concerned about condition 2, the immediate sight line of the design of, this and so on. That there is, aside from the church, there's no other buildings. You mentioned other buildings, but they're not in the immediate sight line at that intersection up at the top of the hill. Those buildings that you mentioned are in quite a distance, but not within sight line of that area, only the church. So I want to make that comment. Condition number 3, 7-foot high fence. That's a wonderful idea. I have no problem with that. But I would ask, could you cover it with some netting? Because I'm very familiar with the type of fencing you're looking at. I believe it's more of like a aluminum, rectangular aluminum that it's going to be. And what color is it going to be? Is it going to be brown, red, black, white? You mentioned decorative. That's all I heard.
It's black.
Okay. So it's very similar to what you were asking about over at the reservoir. And that's small, but it'd be great if you go ahead and cover it with some netting so you can't tell what's going on the other side of the fence. Again, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, well, I am very concerned that this building is being placed across from my house. And that, yes, if I sit on my front porch in my rocking chair, then I'm going to be listening to pumps, then I'm going to have to see lighting going on and off. The size of the building is a concern to me, as well as my neighbor right next to it, which is in building 10. I don't know why you really need this size building there. I can't understand that. Aside from that, I thank you for your time, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Gary. Anyone else?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give before the board is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please tell us your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, sir.
How you doing, everybody? It is Peter. Last name is Loera. So it's going to be L-O-V as in Victor, E-R-A-S. And this plan, I live in lot 7. I am the neighbor that lives direct next to this.
What's your street address?
It is 145 Long Hill Road. So I think everybody did an excellent job with questions that they had so far. They addressed most of the things that I had concerns with. One of the things that I had concern with was the decibel level that is going to be coming out of this building. As most of you mentioned, my bedroom would probably be about 70 feet away from the end of this building. My bedroom is in the front corner, as you guys described, the front east corner of my home. My question would be, and I believe you made it clear to me, you guys have a, sorry, words get away from me. No, you have an easement on that driveway, which is why you're placing this building in the position that.
So it's not actually our easement. There are, township utilities. That easement for stormwater to drain the cul-de-sac back here. I think there's a sewer pipe in there, and there is a very component of water. So it's not just us, it's other.
So my question would solely be, because everybody that came up already asked most of the questions. Instead of doing the 45 by 25, why couldn't you do 25 by 45 and get it further away from the residents?
It would be slightly further away, but because the required setback from the cul-de-sac is actually right here at the back of the building. So we couldn't encroach into that setback. Because it's a lot smaller and because it's narrow, the building envelope is actually right where the building is.
Okay, so the reason that I'm asking this is, as everybody asked you guys before, you mentioned you were unaware about the dB level from the pumps, but I'm sure the newer style pumps and they're not very loud. But even at that, they do have a dB output. I'm sure the generator is not going to be running all the time. But you guys are running, as you guys said, heat pump system that is going to be removing the heat that's going to be generated from these rooms. And in the summertime, the pump's running all the time. They're making heat all the time. So that means that's going to be running all the time. Yes. So no matter what, there's a constant dB level coming off of this facility.
Next.
Correct. So, the heat pump system is very like what you have in the house. And the noise level coming from the condenser, the outside piece of equipment, would not be any different than what you normally have on the house. It is farther away, like I said earlier, it's on the northeast corner. Farther away.
Thank you. So with that being said, the only other concern was the other one that was mentioned. Yes, the building is 10 feet away from the fence that's on my property. I would double check my survey. The fence on my property is not actually on my property. The fence on my property is past my property. My property line goes beyond the fence. So beyond that, you're abroviding your fence. What is the footage between your fence and my fence?
I don't think we have the answer to that question, but we did prepare the site plan with the benefit of the survey, so we're 100% sure the plantings are on the jurisdiction of the property. They're not on their property.
Okay, none of that I'm aware of. I just wanted to know, like, as was mentioned before, if I had to service my fence, am I cutting down your arborvitae to service my fence?
4 or 5 feet.
Okay. Besides that, everybody else did a very excellent job. You guys did a great job. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wish to address the board? No one coming forward. I close the meeting to the public. Any comments from our professionals? Mr. Brigliadoro?
So, Chairman, the applicant's looking for conditional use approval. Conditional use variance approval, that's the D3 variance that they spoke about. Preliminary and final site plan approval. For the conditions of the conditional use ordinance, the lot area, lot width deficiencies. The board approved that in the prior subdivision, which I'm sure the board is aware of. So it's really just a question of revoting and reapproving what the board previously approved. The fence height. it's interesting because under the conditional use ordinance, it talks about, adequate fence, but we do have this other ordinance that has the height of the fence, but I think the applicant has put in proofs in both scenarios. In terms of conditions, the board were to look favorably upon this application, the applicant would be required to comply with technical comments in the board engineer's review report, which the applicant has indicated that they have no problem with. They also agreed to a noise study in order to demonstrate that pumps generators within this building would comply to the NJDEP standards for decibels at the property line. I understand that there's also been representations that they don't anticipate any blasting to construct this building, but they also agreed that in the event that they were to embark upon blasting, that they would provide pre and post blast surveys and all the other requirements that are involved when you have blast.
And that would change the whole construction plan for the project.
Understood. So this is a D variance. So 7 board members will vote. The applicant needs to obtain the affirmative vote of 5 board members in order to secure an approval.
I'm sorry, Chairman, are questions off the table right now? Can we ask another question?
You can ask a question.
What is preventing the applicant from what the gentleman stated of making it vertical instead of horizontal on the plans? Other than one more variance for a rear setback, whatever it is,
I think.
what's preventing them from doing that?
Point some of the louvers at our next door neighbors,
But if you turn it, why couldn't the louvers be on the other side?
because the equipment has a certain layout in the building. Building's designed to accommodate the equipment, with the building, with the equipment, so we do have. If I could just add just one little thing, there will be a sign on the gate of this facility. It'll be the typical, public utility, New Jersey American Water, do not enter, do not enter. There will also be telephone number right at the sign. Telephone number and contact the water company for any of our neighbors, residents that have any concerns.
Mr. O'Brien, I know one of the board members mentioned about fire department gaining access.
Yeah. Water company's used to that. They'll do whatever's required.
Very good. Does that conclude your testimony?
It does. I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's quite all right. Thank you.
There was one more thing, I believe it was not only a noise plan or a study, but mitigation as well. What I've seen, I think that's what we agreed to.
Yeah. That's
Right. Oh, if necessary, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions of the board or comments? May I have a motion?
Chairman, I'll make the motion based on the stipulations that the board attorney has made.
May I have a second?
That's to approve.
To approve.
Okay.
We always have to add. May I have a second to the motion, please?
Second.
Please poll the board.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
No.
Mr. Luke Damiano,
Yes.
Ms. Cataldo,
Yes.
Mr. Seaver,
Yeah.
Mr. Poshis,
No.
Mr. Kilpatrick.
Yes. Give us a count. I believe it was 5-2. The motion is approved. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We've been at this for almost 2 hours. Does anybody wish to have a comfort break? We'll have a 5-minute comfort break. Thank you. Martorino wanted to make some comments prior to their presentation.
Yeah.
At the next meeting.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, this is not a public hearing tonight. The application has been filed. Applicant would like to address the board. The applicant now has the benefit of the board planners report, the board engineers report. So they are aware of certain comments and concerns that the board professionals have. So my understanding is they just want to make a brief presentation tonight. And they will come back, they will provide notice to the public and they will come back for, in the future for a public hearing.
That's my understanding, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your patience. It's
You are Mr. Foriello?
yeah, Anthony Fiorello, office at 16 Further Street, Total Borough, and I'm here on behalf of Martorano Enterprises. I'm sure the board, at least some of the board members, are familiar with an application that was brought a couple of years ago, wherein the Martorano premises or Martorano Enterprise buildings were approved for apartments. The approval was conditioned upon DEP approval. Unfortunately, DEP did not approve the application, so the condition of your approval couldn't be met. So the Martoranos were left to try to revision their project and what they could do. And this was an attempt to see what could be done with respect to these premises. And the application was filed in order to get comment from your professionals and to see what is possible as they move forward to another phase of a hope for development. You're aware of the property. It's located almost at the intersection of Main Street and Route 23 or Plumpton Avenue. It is, I guess, east from the restaurant, from the church, and from the private school. Used to be the school for the church, but it's a private school. They have two lots there, lots 11 and lot 12. One is about an acre and a half, more or less. The other is a half acre. But it's unusual in that this property has a zone line that splits off lot 11, the half acre smaller piece, and lot 12, which has most all of the buildings on it. Lot 11 contains, frankly, parking for the facilities on lot 12. The zone for lot 11 is RB1, RB2, RB1, residential. The zone for the lot 12, which is the bigger piece, is industrial. Now, going back a number of years, many years, there was a foundry on this site, and it operated as a foundry. It switched into warehouses, switched into industry, fabrication, all is permitted in your industrial ordinance. The R1 zone remained, frankly, a parking lot. It's too small for a residential development. It really doesn't fit in the area that it's located for residential uses. So we have this split duality, and we have constructed on the property things that are probably best focused in a mixed use zone, but we don't have a mixed use zone in Little Falls. So many years ago, there was approved stores. They were non-conforming uses, and every time a new store moved in, the Martorinos had to come back before the board for approval. So we have a hair salon, we have a plumbing establishment, we have a dancing studio, we have a tanning salon. So if the hair salon decides to move and we put in a nail parlor instead, we have to come back before the board for a variance. So it's a very odd situation that the Martorinos were faced with, and how best to figure out how to utilize this split zone. The stores are existing. And nothing you can do with them other than tear them down. We can't do that because there's nothing else to put in. So Mr. Martorano was considering a thought of utilizing the buildings that are parallel to Main Street, keeping the stores that are there, their businesses they've been operating, hard to rent them. Small stores in an urban, in a community like Little Falls don't rent up very quickly. Some of them are vacant. Most of the time, there's vacancies there. Vacancies are not good for the community, just not a good sign of health and vigor. So the thought was to request consideration with respect to the building that's parallel to Main Street, especially upstairs businesses that are there that really don't have frontage. They don't have a window to look out and advertise with, to convert two apartments into that area, about 1,000 square feet each, and let the remaining business that's up there stay. And with respect to the building that's perpendicular to Main Street, to do pretty much the same. The upstairs doesn't rent out, convert that to 2 apartments and a business use for the third area of space. With respect to the existing warehousing and industrial use, it's proposed to keep that pretty much the same. The thought was to have smaller warehouse uses in the form of mini warehousing or self-storage in the same footprint. There's no expansion in their thoughts when they generated this plan as a concept, as it were, to see what would fly, what would make sense, having your input as well as your professionals. So there would be an addition to one of the areas presently under construction. So it wouldn't change the footprint. We just had 1 story, and the industrial uses would remain pretty much the same, whatever the industrial use zone permits, whether it be assembly, whether it be fabricating, whether it be warehousing, would abide whatever tenant came by and was willing to utilize those premises. So the plan, more of a concept than this is what we want to do, is to invite you to take a look at it, see if we're doing the right thing, or if there's thoughts that you may have or your professionals may have. We certainly appreciated their input because it gave us more grist, as it were, to refine our plans and cement them in our thoughts, and to see what the board may think of the concept of having the existing stores fronting on Main Street with 2 apartments above, the perpendicular building having the existing stores on the bottom with 2 apartments above, and to utilize on the same footprint where the warehouses, I'm going to call it warehouses, because there's more than just warehouse there. It's industrial use. There's some fabrication. There was a chair company there that brought in parts and assembled them. To keep that the same industrial uses permitted under the ordinance, and just expanded by adding a 1 additional story over a portion of the warehouse portion, as I call it, and see if that is something within the contemplation of the board. Is it something we should go forward with? We spent an awful lot of treasure and money with respect to the 64 apartments that were there through months of testimony and professional fees, DEP concerns. So we would like to proceed cautiously to see if this project can become a real. So I have Mr. Martireno here. He has thoughts like please address.
I want to apologize for having to come back again. I want to thank everybody on the board, Brigadier Dora, engineer, everybody for approving us. After we got denied, we got approved by the town, we got approved by the county. We got approved technically by the state on the site. But we got denied the access for Main Street because they raised the water table. We did not let that go. We went after state. John knows all about that. We went after the state about a year, trying to fight them. It has me going down and speaking to the assistant commissioner for a lengthy bit of time. They determined that it was not going to happen. It's an 8-0 vote, and they weren't going to change. So we spent a lot of.
You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Probably close to $500,000 in fees, everything else over the course of all these years. Trying to put that through. It was a beautiful thought. Loved it. But I wanted to now come back to try to fix up what I have there. As you know, we were at the 99% completion and approval. We emptied almost all of our building of the tenants. So we had no income coming in there for years. Now we finally got the tenants back up, get some kind of revenue back. So I would like to do something with the back building and the left corner. Thanks, James. The left corner, which is currently an office there currently. I just want to put 2 stores in there. The entrance is going to remain the same. We were just going to expand it back into the warehouse and make 2 stores there.
That's where how many apartments will go there?
So the apartments wouldn't be there. The apartments would be on the 2nd floor, right where you are, right there, top left over the laundromat only, right there. Those 3 windows, right there. That'd be 2. The other 2 is on the inside, a little further back to the left, right above the to the right above the tunnel. Those are old pictures, yeah.
It won't be connected to the self-storage.
Right, that's where you see the tumble zone now. That's a UPS FedEx.
Yes, I've been there.
So that's where they were gonna go. And then the warehouse, what we have here, Mr. Fiorello was expanding on right now, you don't know who comes that wants to rent 15,000 or 22,000 or 20,000 square feet. They may just want to rent 5,000 square feet or 7,000 square feet for a warehouse. So my idea was to keep the warehousing and what is not rented, like a mini storage. The 2nd floor, Mr. Fiorello was speaking about, for the dominant long part of the building in Burnett, coming from front to back. We're not adding a level in there. Right there. Perfect, thank you. Left to right, it's going to be within the building. You have the height clearance. Obviously, we want to take down want to redo the roof. That looks terrible. That stack is no longer there. That was taken down over the summer. I just want to fix it up, make it look better.
So you wouldn't add a level to that, you would use that 2nd level for purpose, you said.
Yeah, we're gonna put a mezzanine in the middle of where we were going to add 1 single level is on the inside back of the parking lot. Comes the main parking lot. There, right there.
Okay.
We're gonna add 1 level.
And the reason for that?
For extra usage, storage, mini storage.
I guess my question is this, when I think of self-storage, you get a key and a lock and the front goes up and you have an area to put your things in. Is that what you're thinking of? Or are you
So I was
thinking of mini
I was
warehouse?
thinking of some of that and large, not a warehouse space, but not a self-storage space. If someone wanted to say for example, we had a call for a plumber and wanted to put a plumber in. Well, they only needed about 500 square feet.
I guess what I'm leading to is from a parking point of view. That could be challenging. People could move in there and set up little offices with employees. something to consider going forward.
Have to come back in front of you.
Well, that's, yes,
So have to be industry, warehousing, fabrication, assembly, things of that. nature.
I
okay,
mean, there was a small section of office space currently in there too. You have to have something in there if someone has a warehouse space, like, so for that facility right there. They had a small office space inside the space to do their paperwork, shipping out, shipping in. It's just not. Even if it was just storage, you have to have something there, your labels, your log register, you have to have something for somebody there. So that whole space out of a small
okay.
storage.
We're saying the same thing. There may be employees there that should be taken into consideration. I have just a few comments for direction. You mentioned to make architectural changes, enhancements. We haven't actually seen the plans, or the plans we have seen sounds as if they'll be changed. Okay, so something like for the self-storage, we're calling that self-warehousing. We'd like to see if that can be dressed up more than what we see on the additional plans. In the previous approvals for the front of the building, we had brick on the bottom and we had hardy board on top. Okay, we'd like to see that unless you can enhance that even more. I'm not saying make it look like a Swiss chalet, but you know what I'm talking about. The bedrooms, I was concerned because I thought you were putting 2 additional bedrooms in the back, but you're not. By back, I mean where the warehouse and self-storage will be. So that's good. They're all going to be 1-bedroom units. It's only 4, which is good for reasons you're aware. And that's all I have. Any comments or thoughts from the board members?
The storage facility was gonna be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hopefully predominantly.
Entirely first floor would go with the warehousing. And like I said, if we were going to put in, the idea is to put a little bit more like a. Let's get this better. And then we'll keep filling in some smaller big.
Like subcontractor cages? Like subcontractor cage or contractor cages, kind of?
Right. I mean,
I have one last,
inside. Compact with Jackson.
one last question. Is there presently ingress and egress from Grove Street? Is the fence locked? Do you open it during the day now? Okay, as part of the original, we were gonna cut off entry from Grove Street in order to have neighbors be happy. And we were gonna put in a gate.
That black van is.
Excellent. Okay, that's all the comments I have. Any additional comments from the board?
Yes, I do. Oh, thank you. I'm looking at the plans that were submitted, and to me, it looks like a full-scale self-storage rental facility. You sound like you're describing it as something that's not quite retail, like a homeowner wouldn't rent if they need extra space to store things.
Not really. They put, if you were gonna do self-storage, we use the whole one, self-storage.
Yeah.
Those. It's going to be like, that's just good. Visual effect. There are gonna be some smaller bins that you see there.
Okay.
As it's built in, as it's filling, but all that you see there. Not.
Mhm.
They got a little haywire, they're not even going to decide that anyway.
Yeah.
When you do with self storage, you have a concept
what you're gonna do, you're gonna give it to the people who are on the building, they will do the specific layout of each unit, or something like that, and like that.
So it's customizable.
They
Now-
utilize the best.
Yeah. The last time you you appeared before the board, there were some residents in the area behind around Grove Street and Dewey who were concerned about the height of the proposed project. And you had agreed to do a setback. Now, what you're showing on these plans is using the existing footprint, which is a lot closer to the property line than what was agreed to with the last project that we approved. So my concern is that I would expect the same number of people from the community to come and object to a second floor being added to a project, to a building that's closer to the property line than what was originally approved in your last application.
Right, but we're not raising anything on that side.
Okay, it does show that here in the plans that you submitted, so, because it says proposed second floor plan.
Second floor plan. Red, it's all red there.
Yeah.
Main. Exactly.
Yep, how about behind that, closer to Dewey?
No, do we have to make it exactly?
Oh, so there's no second floor, new,
Putting it like I said, we're putting a second floor inside. We have a height inside the building.
so the existing height,
Put a second,
I see,
put a second floor.
okay.
So if you put a floor here,
Yeah.
building wouldn't get higher.
Yeah.
Just like enough volume to come through.
I understand, so that you're not
Showing us.
you're not adding to the existing height.
Re-roof.
Yeah.
The only spot where we want it, the second floor, is back one right there.
I see, okay. That is not clear in the plans that you
No,
submitted.
well, that's why we,
Thank you.
I'm glad you came and I'm glad we clarified a lot of things. Motions?
Yes, the auto turn analysis, when you did this, was it on box trucks, cars, tractor trailers? How would they, and is it only one-way traffic and out as it comes around the corner?
Yeah, like agreed to on the last application. Was to make that kind of like. Came back with the York Street, fence. Believe it was just for, emergency vehicles. Possibly. Maybe trucks and. Made of the last. But what we were proposing is to come in off of. See where the black vans are?
Yeah.
There, that goes into the main part. We were proposing. Perfect. Right there, around the level, we were proposing, we trucks, cars continue into the parking lot as it is, and something there from the current park.
Yeah, no, I was just looking at the auto turn analysis that was done. And I'm just a little concerned that you have a pinch point on the building, you're trying to access the overhead doors that you're planning on putting in. So no longer with red tracks. Going this way, so I guess that around this way, or it's still going this way. And you have an auto turn analysis coming around and going through overhead doors for storage or whatever you would plan on doing. I just want to be clear that you had at least two-way traffic to do that, if that was a proposal. Yeah, okay. That's how we get currently. So we can get those back, that's how we would have to. Here. So I'm just looking at what I have, that's all.
Yeah. You know, regarding the apartments too, I know you want to put 4 in, but is there a reason you're not going to put another apartment in the front on Main Street on that corner that says existing business to remain. Seems to me that that would be more logical use to be an apartment there.
Honestly, I wish I could 60.
Well,
Yeah, I believe this would trigger me going back to, being, residential, I understand.
mhm. And access to these,
Two apartments.
yeah,
The third apartment would trigger DEP, and we're back where we were before.
so access to these two units would be in,
That's why.
from the back or from Main Street?
It all comes together.
Slowly destroyed.
Slowly and painfully, but it came
Those
together.
were perfectly set up. That's the building that I built in 2007.
Okay,
So if you're gonna be walking up the same steps,
which are located where?
on the side of the building, the one.
Okay.
Says laundromat, that's not one. That's inside.
Yeah.
This is going above it.
I see.
Right now, there's the. Dance ballerina there. Above the laundromat. You see where?
Yeah.
This is the laundromat and the center pole that we put there, right there. That's where they're gonna be.
I think the question is, are you gonna have a door so they get up to their apartments located there, or else,
No, the remain, the door that's currently
which is where?
right there.
Okay, thank you. That answers that. Yep. Any further questions, recommendations? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your input. We'll be revising plans, rethinking what we said and what we heard here tonight, and I thank you for your time and your courtesy.
Thank you.
Correct. Seems like there might be a pinch point there, especially with doing traffic, something especially breaks down. That point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any old business? Any new business? Bills are presented to the town. May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.